gardens, many pathways. CBC weather specialist Shih Scotland is here with what you can expect today in the weather, but we're going to show you Toronto as it wakes up. Some people going back to work. There you can see it. The CN Tower, red and green, and the green we have seen out west, the green we have seen on the ground here because there's been virtually no snow.
Yeah, Southern Ontario, very, very green for this time of year. I was up in cottage country, Georgian Bay, into the Muskokas. Normally they're dealing with lake effect snow. I didn't see any of that when I was up there for the Christmas celebrations with the family over the last couple of days. Very hot.
Settle down. Settle down, you guys.
It is stacked up so high. Current temperatures across the east actually very mild in Toronto, and this is why Southern Ontario, the system that's moving in, a series of lows will start out as a rain event. Significant amount of rain. You can already see it moving into southwestern Ontario. There's the system that's bringing in the moisture stateside. Lots of Gulf moisture with this low. And we also have a cold front which is slicing through. And this is why we could see, after all of that moisture falls, rain, some wet snow, things will start to freeze up. Flash freeze warnings in effect, a special weather statement for Southern Ontario. Across the east, winter storm warnings, snowfall warnings. You have winter storm watches for parts of Atlantic Canada, rainfall warning into the Halifax area. This is for tomorrow. That'll be your story tomorrow as the system continues to move to the east. So there's all of the moisture starting out as rain, but then you see this cold front really drop those temperatures. That's going to ice up the roads and switch what's falling to snow. And I think you could see in through Prescott, Brockville, east through Ottawa into southern Quebec, you could be seeing upwards of 10 to 15 centimeters of snow before all is said and done. This is the heavy snow, so do be careful shoveling it as well. So a messy, wintry mix across much of the east today. Cooler northwestern Ontario into southern Manitoba, but not bad in Calgary. Very wet, though, today with 10 to 15 millimeters in Vancouver.
Like you've never seen him before. Redemption Inc. coming in January on CBC.
Are you hard to insure? Have you been turned down? Worried your premiums will be too expensive?
Relax. If you're age 20 to 80, you can apply. Plans range from $1,000 to $500,000 with an additional $250,000 if death is accidental.
And all benefits are tax-free.
Most of our plans just ask you a few simple questions over the phone or call your local life insurance broker. It's that simple. Premiums never increase for the life of your policy.
Canada Protection Plan is 100% Canadian. We are the largest supplier of no medical life insurance, and our coverages are among the most secure in the country. Our plans are used for funeral expenses, paying off debts, and leaving money to your loved ones, so protect them for pennies a day.
Compare our rates. You could possibly save 30% or more, and you're under no obligation to buy. Call us now, toll-free, at 1-877-526-9090.
Voltaren for back pain. Painful to move? Voltaren Emulgel is a clinically proven anti-inflammatory medicine. It quickly penetrates deep, targeting the source of pain and concentrating where relief is needed. Voltaren. Rediscover the joy of movement.
CBC News looks back at the year's biggest stories, from the Arab Spring to Gaddafi's fall, the victories, the defeats, the highs, the lows. 2011, a look back, all this week on CBC News. CBCNews.ca, the #1 news site that Canadians go to for up-to-the-minute breaking news and information. Wherever you are, CBCNews.ca.
After months of violence, observers from the Arab League are on the ground in Syria. They're in the city of Homs, where dozens were killed yesterday. Reports say some of the army's tanks have left the city, while others may have just been hidden. Out of hospital and home for the holidays, Prince Philip is back at the royal family's traditional Christmas retreat and is now recovering after being treated for a blocked coronary artery. It was the 90-year-old's most serious health scare yet. And the juniors are off to a great start. Team Canada crushes Finland at the World Junior Hockey Championship, beating them 8-1 in Edmonton. Canada faces the Czech Republic next. months of uprising, a brutal crackdown that's left thousands dead and brought pressure to bear on Syria's autocratic regime. The country's Arab neighbors have forced it to let observers inside. The team is now in the western city of Homs, which has been besieged by government tanks. At least 34 people were killed there yesterday alone, and this morning there are reports of more death. GRN reporter Rania Abu-Zaid joined us earlier by phone from Beirut. She has more on the monitoring mission and the latest violence.
Well, according to several opposition activists, at least a dozen tanks have withdrawn from the besieged city of Homs, which, as you mentioned, has been the subject of much of President Bashar al-Assad's wrath. According to the local coordination committees, which is a grassroots activist group on the ground, at least 11 people have been killed across Syria today, on the same day that these monitors are in the country to observe whether or not this Arab League deal, which Assad signed with the Pan-Arab body, is being implemented. Now, that deal calls for the immediate cessation of violence and the withdrawal of tanks and troops from the city streets.
We are hearing reports that at least 20,000 protesters have actually gathered in Homs as these Arab League peace monitors start their tours. Any sense of what's happening on the streets of the city today?
Yes, I've heard reports that there are several thousand. I didn't realize that the number was up to 20,000, but certainly several thousand are staging a sit-in in the hope of meeting the observers. And activist leaders have prepared a file to hand to these monitors, which detail the deaths and the various activities of the security forces in the city. Now, it's unclear exactly, whether these observers will see the full picture of the violence on the ground, given that the security forces are reportedly withdrawing their tanks and fighting others. But these several thousand people are certainly determined to show the Arab League monitors what their city has experienced in the past couple of months. The fear that activists have is that the regime is playing some kind of cat and mouse game with the Arab League. Recall that Assad only agreed to this deal under immense pressure, and only after the Arab League threatened to take the issue up with the UN Security Council when less Syrians responded to their demands. So, the Syrians are responsible for the security of this group. They've insisted that, quote unquote, they have full access to everywhere they want to go, but with Syrian government compliance. So, there are real concerns that perhaps the Syrian regime has just bought itself a month, and that, this Arab League mission provides a veneer of suggesting that the Assad regime is cooperating with the Arab League. Meanwhile, it continues its crackdown.
That's Rania Abu-Zaid reporting from Beirut. Some good news this morning for Prince Philip and the royal family. The Duke of Edinburgh is out of hospital after a serious health scare over the Christmas weekend. And here's a new video for you this hour. It's an aerial view of Prince Philip arriving at the royal family's Sandringham estate. And after 4 nights in hospital, he'll finally get a chance to sleep in his own bed. Dominic Velitis is on the story and joins us with the latest from London and tell us more about this discharge from hospital this morning. We had been hearing that the prince was quite keen to leave.
That's correct. He left Papworth Hospital this morning. Interestingly, as the convoy of cars drove through the hospital gates there, it slowed down. Prince Philip's car got very close to the waiting media, and he actually wound the window of his car down and waved to members of the press. And that's quite an unusual thing for a member of the royal family to do. I guess it was a photo opportunity, a chance to show the world that he was okay. He didn't respond to journalist questions, but there were some big smiles from him, and he did look very well indeed. He is no doubt delighted to have left hospital. He'd spent 4 nights there since he was admitted on Friday after suffering chest pains that evening whilst at Sandringham. We know that even after his treatment that night, he was keen to leave straight away. So after 4 days in hospital, I suspect he's delighted to be back at home with his family at Sandringham and has a chance to catch up on some of the Christmas celebrations that he's missed out on over the last few days.
But Prince Philip certainly does keep a pretty busy schedule. It did sort of slow down a little bit in the past little while, but now the key question is this health scare going to slow it down even more, given that it's the Queen's Jubilee, it's the London Olympics, there's a lot going on in 2012.
You're right, and this is the big question. Of course, we don't know what doctors will have advised him to do, but I suspect it involves lots of rest. This is the most serious health scare Prince Philip has ever had. He was last admitted to hospital in 2008, and that was for a chest infection. Although it was a relatively straightforward procedure that he underwent on Friday, he is 90 years old. That said, this is a man who does literally hundreds of formal engagements every year. Indeed, his next one is in just a few weeks' time, and next year, as you rightly pointed out, it's the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, and as part of those celebrations, Her Royal Highness and Prince Philip will set off on a UK-wide tour. Its remit is to travel as widely as possible. It will last nearly 4 months and will cover the length and breadth of the UK. Now, although an active man, is he really up for such a full diary? Tellingly, he had to pull out of a trip to Italy this year, which was scheduled to happen off the back of a 10-day tour of Australia with the Queen. So Prince Philip, he turned 90 years old back in June, and in a televised interview then, he did express a desire to do a little less. There hasn't been much evidence of that. As I say, his diary has been full, but maybe this health scare will finally convince him to take things a little easier.
All right, Dominic, thank you. That's Dominic Velitis reporting from London. A great start for Team Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championship. They took on Finland yesterday in their first game of the opening round, and the result was a dominating win. Briar Stewart has the story from Edmonton.
Well, it was a great way for the Canadian juniors to kick off the 2-week tournament by very easily beating Finland 8-1. On the ice, it was Winnipeg's Mark Stone that led the goal scoring with a hat-trick. Well, Canada really dominated the game offensively. It was a very important game for goalie Mark Byzantine. Byzantine is only one of 4 players who played last time around for Canada at the junior tournament to be back on the roster this year. But Byzantine had a pretty tough game against Sweden on Friday. He was pulled from the net after the Swedes scored 4 goals against him in a very short period of time. There was some debate about whether or not Byzantine would be starting for Canada once the tournament got underway, but after the game against Finland, Coach Don Hay said there was never any doubt in his mind and that Byzantine was always going to start, and after the game he praised the goalie's performance in net. We spoke with quite a few of the Canadian players after the game, and they told us that when they skated onto the ice in Rexall Place, the mood was really just electric, and it was quite something to hear the crowd cheering and to see all of the red and white. Now, Canada will get a bit of a breather today. They're going to practice this morning, but they won't be playing a game. They will face off against the Czech Republic tomorrow, though, and likely in front of another packed house. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Edmonton.
And there's even more hockey action to come this morning. Greg Ross will have a full wrap of all the highlights from Team Canada's big win and the best of the rest from the world of sports. Also ahead this hour, from the final installment of Harry Potter to the end of Oprah's show and the enormous success of Arcade Fire, we'll round up the year's biggest stories in entertainment. Plus, from roadkill to fur hats and mittens, may seem a little bizarre, but not for one Saskatchewan man. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The weather update is brought to you by Cold Effects. Be prepared this cold and flu season with clinically proven Cold Effects.
Right now, millions of children are suffering without the essentials of life. You can be the difference. For children like Zakaro and Mopa, who might otherwise go hungry. Or Sandra,